We have to recognize that just because we were raised a certain way, or just because things happen in our childhood, does not mean that we should pass that down to our children.
Elevate with Monique. Elevate. Elevate with Monique.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Elect Elevation. I am your hostess, Mo, and I want to thank you so much for joining. So, for the month of May, if you've watched any of the other videos, you know that we are talking about healing while mothering. And why this is important and why we are talking about it in this month is one, we are celebrating Mother's Day. And then two, I think that this is something that we don't talk about enough when it comes to bringing those two things together, right? A parent being on her healing journey and what that looks like and how that benefits her children. So, in this episode, I want to talk about some benefits to healing yourself in order to parent better, in order to become a better parent for your children. Now, before I started healing, I parented from a place of control, a place of fear, in some cases, a place of like survival mode, if you will. And I wanted obedience. I wanted things to be perfect versus being understanding and really putting myself in my children's shoes. Um, it wasn't until I really started to focus on my healing that I realized how backwards that was. That mindset, it didn't benefit my children. I had to stop trying to fix my children and really start to see them, right? Especially my oldest daughter as she has become a young adult. Now, I might do a video about this, but there is a difference between being a mother of an 8-year-old versus being a mother of a 22-year-old. They require two different parts of you, two different interactions from you, right? And so when I started to understand that the needs are different and that the more I healed, the better parent I became, I started seeking information to help me to really develop a better parenting style. Before I started my healing journey, um, perfection was something that I expected. And mostly because that was what was put on me as a child, perfection. And so I wanted my children to be these perfect little children who just, lived in this perfect bubble. So unrealistic, I know. But what I realized is putting that pressure on my children was not making them better. It was making me understand them less, if that makes sense. I didn't understand them because I wanted them to be perfect. So there was no or very little room for error. Well, that's how I grew up and I hated it. So why was I perpetuating that onto my children? Because I didn't know any better until I started to learn better. So I have a couple of points for you. The first one is when you are more conscious and intentional as a parent, you are less in autopilot mode and more in alignment mode. And what I mean by that is autopilot is when you do the same things every single day. I laugh because a friend of mine was like, you run a tight ship. And I did, right? We go to school, we come home, we do homework, we get bath, we have dinner, uh, we say prayers, and we go to bed. Like that was the routine, right? But in many cases, I was operating in autopilot. Like there was no room for modification. There was no room for um, just just being. being silly, laughing, or whatever the case may have been, because it was so rigid. It had to follow these rules and these parameters. And I wasn't being intentional, right? Like, certain things I wasn't asking my children. I asked how their day was, but that's so surface. How was your day? Oh, my day was good. Okay. And that's the end of the conversation. No, intentional parenting started to look like, tell me what was interesting about your day today. Um, they'll tell me an experience and I'll say, well, how did that make you feel? How did you handle it? Did you express to that person, or whatever it is? It's actually engaging in real conversation that's more than just a yes or a no. And so I would submit to you, turn the autopilot off, break up the routine, break up the monotony. And I'm saying this to you, but I'm also saying it to me, because sometimes I still find myself doing that, because I still have an 8-year old who needs structure. Structure is always going to be a part of our lives, but I don't have to be in autopilot mode where everything just happens without me thinking about it. Being more intentional about the activities and the experiences with my children. The other teaching point I would say is having healthier emotional bonds with your children will develop trust. It will also develop a mutual respect for each other. Now, this is interesting because the way that I parented my oldest daughter is absolutely not the way that I could parent my middle daughter. And I tried to, right? I tried to create the same type of space for my oldest daughter, for my middle daughter, for her to be able to talk to me and tell me what's going on in school and all these things, but it wasn't working for her. So I am having to learn new healthy emotional bond ways to make my middle daughter feel comfortable, feel safe, feel connected to me, in order to share what's going on in her life, who's new, who's gone, what struggles is she having, because they are so different. So you got to know your children, and you've got to be willing to try different things in order to enhance and reinforce the bond that you have with them. And you have to know that the bond that you create with one is going to look very different from the bond that you create with another. And that is okay. The other one is breaking generational cycles. I have a whole nother video on this specifically alone, because this is major. I know it's major for me. There are several generational cycles that I know for a fact were passed down to me, that I know for a fact were even passed down to my parents, that were then passed down to me. And I just simply refuse to pass those generational cycles down to my children. I refuse to. And so, what I am focused on now is passing down to my children a healed version of me. I am focused on passing down to them a version of me that is vulnerable, that doesn't mind saying, I'm sorry, that doesn't mind holding space for them as an individual to be able to come into their own individuality, right? We have to recognize that just because we were raised a certain way, or just because things happen in our childhood, does not mean that we should pass that down to our children. Our children are innocent bystanders in the situation. So we want to be very, very cognizant of what it is that we are passing down to our children. Are we passing down fruit of healing? Are we passing down fruits of self love and self worth? Are we passing down negativity and limiting beliefs? Ask yourself that question. And I actually have an activity for you. I want you to sit and I want you to think about just 2 or 3 areas in your life that you feel like were generational curses or cycles that were negatively affecting you as a child. And I want you to think about how that shows up or not in the lives of your children as you are parenting your children. Do you still do those same things now to your kids? For instance, for me, yelling was major. I mean, I didn't even know that there was a regular tone of conversation from an adult to a child for a long time, because all I would hear was yelling, yelling, yelling. And so I was yelling at my children, right? Until I started to realize, that is not the kind of vibe I want in my household. And so I had to start making sure that when I respond to my children, when I'm talking to them, there are times when I raise my voice, but it's not the norm. It's not the only way I communicate with them. But this came from the awareness of that came from me sitting and identifying and being self-aware enough to say, this is something that I hated in my life. I'm not going to pass this down to my children. So I hope that these teaching points help you. I hope that you can take some of it and really apply it to your own life. And remember that our children are watching us. And not only are they watching us, but they benefit from our healing journey. So I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next video. And by the way, if any of this content resonates with you, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to hit the like button. Also, leave a comment below and let me know, what generational curse did you overcome so that you would not pass that down to your children? All right. And until the next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye.